Welcome back. This should be fun. Going to talk about classic rock and roll diss tracks. Now, in case you're not familiar with that term, I believe it originated in the rap music world. A diss track is a song in which you basically go after someone. Usually it's a rival artist. And again, while this tends to be far more prevalent in rap/hip hop music, there are some great rock and roll diss tracks out there as well. And to be fair, one of the artists I'm going to cover today is really more of a folk artist than a rock artist, but hey, we do that here too. So all that being said, let's get into it. Every diehard Beatles fan will instantly know why this track is included here. It's no secret that the breakup of the Beatles was a bit messy, to say the least, with lawsuits, vitriolic words flying around in the press, and even songs chiding ex-band members turning up on Lennon-McCartney and Harrison's solo albums. How Do You Sleep from Lennon's 1971 Imagine album is a savage track written in response to two tracks on McCartney's Ram album released earlier that same year that Lennon perceived as direct attacks on him personally. The songs in question are Too Many People and Three Legs, which interestingly are sequenced 1 and 2 on the Ram album. Too Many People in particular is a great tune, which starts out innocently enough as a sort of lament on the inherent unfairness of the human condition. Too many people going underground, too many reaching for a piece of cake, too many people pulled and pushed around, too many waiting for that lucky break. But then we get to the chorus. That was your first mistake. You took your lucky break and broke it in two. Now what can be done for you? You broke it in two. While there's some disagreement on this, McCartney has always insisted that it was Lennon who first sought a separation from the Beatles, and those lyrics do seem to imply that that would be a bad move for John to make. Regarding Three Legs, I really think that's a case of John just being a little bit oversensitive. Verse 2 sounds not like an attack, but more a statement of hurt feelings at the deterioration of McCartney and Lennon's relationship. Well, I thought you was my friend. Well, I thought that I could call you my friend, but you let me down, put my heart around the bend. But if Paul's words were a bit more subtle and open to interpretation, there was no doubt that Lennon's How Do You Sleep was an all-out attack on McCartney. In fact, I think this war of the song lyrics is a really good illustration of the personality differences between John and Paul. Paul, a bit more diplomatic and cautious. John jumping in with both feet and swinging wildly at his ex-bandmate. So Sgt. Pepper took you by surprise. You'd better see right through that mother's eyes. Then we get a reference to the crazy rumor that McCartney had died somewhere around 1966 and been replaced by a double. John says, those freaks was right when they said you was dead. The one mistake you made was in your head. And the chorus, how do you sleep? How do you sleep at night? Lennon literally never lets up. In the final verse, we get, a pretty face may last a year or two, but pretty soon they'll see what you can do. The sound you make is music to my ears. You must have learned something in all those years. So as brutal as How Do You Sleep was, Lennon never actually name checks McCartney in the lyrics, but Lynyrd Skynyrd does just that to Neil Young, who was the target of their ire in Sweet Home Alabama. Once again, interestingly, the anger was the result of two songs that Neil had written denigrating the South and Alabama in particular. Well, I heard Mr. Young sing about her. Well, I heard old Neil put her down. Well, I hope Neil Young will remember. A Southern man don't need him around anyhow. So sings Ronnie Van Zant in verse 2 of Sweet Home Alabama. So what was all the fuss about? Well, on his 1970 After the Gold Rush album, Young had included a song called Southern Man, still quite popular in classic rock circles, which was a scathing indictment of slavery. I saw cotton and I saw black, tall white mansions and little shacks. Southern man, when will you pay them back? I heard screamin' and bullwhips crackin'. How long, how long? Then on his 1972 smash hit album Harvest, Young recorded a song called Alabama, which was also none too complimentary. Alabama, you got the weight on your shoulders that's breaking your back. Your Cadillac has got a wheel in the ditch and a wheel on the track. At this point, the Southern boys that comprised the band Lynyrd Skynyrd began to feel a bit put upon and decided to respond. As Skynyrd lead singer Ronnie Van Zant colorfully put it, we thought Neil was shooting all the ducks just to kill one or two. And I tend to agree. And believe it or not, Neil Young himself agreed after the fact. In his 2012 autobiography, Young wrote, Alabama richly deserved the shot Lynyrd Skynyrd gave me with their great record. I don't like my words when I listen to it. They are accusatory and condescending, not fully thought out, too easy to misconstrue. In the end, I think the message of Sweet Home Alabama is don't dismiss an entire region of a nation because of things that certain leaders do or things that were done many years ago. In verse 3, we get the line, in Birmingham, they love the governor. That's a reference to George Wallace, the segregationalist. We also get a reference to Richard Nixon, who was then embroiled in the Watergate scandal. And Van Zant makes it abundantly clear that whatever politicians might be up to, his conscience is clear. That's what I get out of it anyway. To be honest, the whole thing blew over very quickly as far as Skynyrd and Young were concerned. Van Zant went on record saying he was a big fan of Neil Young's music and was often seen in concert wearing a t-shirt promoting Neil's 1975 Tonight's the Night album. And there are some photos of Young out there wearing a Skynyrd t-shirt as well.
10 years ago I bought you some cufflinks. You brought me something. We both know what memories can bring. They bring diamonds and rust.
So in my intro, I mentioned that one of the artists covered would be a folk artist, and here we are with Joan Baez and Diamonds and Rust. So please no comments about how Joan Baez is not rock. I fully understand that, but personally, I think it's a lot more interesting if we don't always stick to rigid boundaries. Diamonds and Rust was born in 1974. Baez was working on a song. She no longer even remembers what it was originally about when she received a phone call from Bob Dylan. He was calling from a phone booth somewhere in the Midwest, and that phone call stirred up memories of a relationship the two had had 10 years prior. To put it simply, Diamonds and Rust are memories. I found a great quote from Baez about this. She said, time turns ugly charcoal into diamonds and shiny metal into rust. It really does cut both ways, doesn't it? Sometimes we look back at things with far too much pessimism, and sometimes we look at things through rose-colored glasses. Dylan immediately suspected the song was about him, but Baez initially played coy and told him it was about her ex-husband, David Harris. But of course, eventually the truth came out. For his part, Dylan was later quoted as saying, "I love that song. I mean, to be included in something that Joan had written, it still impresses me." This is certainly not a diss track in the traditional sense. There's no name-calling or vitriol here. For me, the overwhelming feeling is one of sadness and bitterness. It seems clear that this relationship meant a lot more to Baez than it did to Dylan. Well, you burst on the scene, already a legend, the unwashed phenomenon, the original vagabond. You strayed into my arms, and there you stayed. Temporarily lost at sea, the Madonna was yours for free. Yes, the girl on the half shell could keep you unharmed. I don't know, but that all sounds to me like a very nice and poetic way to say, "You used me, Bob." And the final verse is also quite cutting. "Now you're telling me you're not nostalgic? Then give me another word for it. You who are so good with words." I love that line, considering this is a song about Bob Dylan. "And at keeping things vague. 'Cause I need some of that vagueness now. It's all come back too clearly. Yes, I loved you dearly. And if you're offering me diamonds and rust, I've already paid." Well, I'll be damned. Here comes your ghost again. But that's not unusual. It's just that the moon is full and you happen to call. And here I said, hands on the telephone, hearing a voice I'd known a couple of light years ago, headed straight for a fall. Once again, thanks for hanging out to the end. What do you guys think? Should I do more diss track videos? I thought it was a pretty fun subject. And as usual, make sure you're subscribed, like, ring the bell icon, consider a financial donation if you're so inclined. Buy me a coffee, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, links in the description, and we'll talk soon.